Yes. Hi, good morning.
Good
Uh,
morning.
you can all see me and hear me.
I can.
Jeff DeLisi. I'm here with Mr. Stasco this morning. Um, and I appreciate very much that the board was willing to accommodate this meeting today. I know that there have been some correspondence back and forth between the applicant, myself, the board, or the commissioners rather. And I just felt that it was probably wise to kind of meet with the commissioners, get on, inform the commissioners where we're at with respect to this particular project. Um, and in particular, maybe kind of put forward the general request that I don't think is any surprise to the commissioners that we're contemplating requesting the board's consideration of a payment plan of some sort or another with respect to payment of the connection fees once we have an understanding of our budget, which is contingent upon the determination of the Mass Works grant application that's currently pending before the Commonwealth. Before I let Mr. Stasco explain what has happened vis-a-vis water on the site to date, I just thought that I would also. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Let me just take a look at my notes here. I also wanted to inform the board or the commissioners that with respect to the MassWorks grant, what our role has been to date and what we are doing at the moment is we're supported. This is obviously, that's a town of Cohasset application. Mr. Stasco is committed to certain amenities on his site that would help the grant application be successful. Those commitments, in addition to certain site improvements such as sidewalks, also include most notably the commitment to pay for engineering along 3A for the sewer line. And it's my understanding that he's also paying for or helping to design in some form or another some of the engineering with respect to the water line and the water main. And so we were hoping that the commissioners would take into consideration that aspect of things as it considers our future request with respect to a reasonable pay plan. We were hoping to make that request when the grant application became final. And my understanding from Chris Senior as recently as Monday or Tuesday of this week was that the town had yet to hear on the application and that it expects to hear within the coming few weeks. The initial time frame that was given to us was late October, early November, and certainly it's not unreasonable or unlikely to have envisioned that it would take a little longer than that. So that's kind of where we are at. With respect to my correspondence with the water commissioners, I initially, and perhaps I owe the commissioners a bit of an apology with respect to an initial letter that I wrote to the commissioners concerning the calculation of the water connection fee. We had been involved in conversations with sewer commissioners concerning similar situations, and there had been some dispute with sewer commissioners as to the appropriate figure for them. And so when I received, I think Lenore, it might have been a letter from you concerning the calculation of the fees. I noted that the calculation was different than mine. So I think you guys were initially at 216,000 thereabouts, and once we kind of had some back and forth follow up, it was then determined that I understood, and I think that we may have agreed. Jason, you can correct me on this. I was fumbling around looking for the number, but I think it was somewhere around maybe like 160 some odd thousand. But there's correspondence, and we're fully committed to paying that, and we know we have to. So my understanding of what, from an infrastructure standpoint, what has occurred on this site is we've had a water line, for decades with respect to the buildings that are there now. The lines were tapped in 2019. Water lines were then installed within the site, and looping. I think that there was a pressure test, a flow test. My understanding is fire department is on board with the results of those tests, and I think that some as-built plans have already been provided. And most recently, we were in the process of seeking to install water meters. And I think that there might have been a question as to the particular specifications of the pipes relative to those meters. We fully understand that there will be no connection to this building until we come back to you and either the fee is paid or a pay plan has been agreed upon, and that initial large lump sum payment is paid. And so I know Bob Egan, for instance, he can't even issue a certificate of occupancy until there's water at the building. So I think what Donald will tell you is that one of the things that he has contemplated is that he would like to, or intends to, chlorinate the lines just to make sure that no stagnant water sits there in this interim period of time until we kind of come to resolution on these issues. And so the general purpose for my request to be here today, and again, my gratitude to the commissioners for hearing us this morning, is to give you an update, hopefully to give you a peace of mind, and hear any issues or concerns that you might have and hopefully address them. And with that, Donald, if I missed anything, if you have anything to add, if I was incorrect in my restatement of some of the technicalities, please jump in. And otherwise, absent Donald jumping in, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, if it's possible, if I can just kind of summarize where we are.
Yeah.
This is John Steinmetz. So kind of in a nutshell, there's an agreement between the Water Commission and your client on the preliminary water connection fee as set forth in the correspondence. That's not disputed.
That's correct.
And there's an agreement that your client has to pay that in order to get a water connection.
That's correct.
Okay. And at some point, you and your client are planning to make a request for a payment plan, but you're not making that request today. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that really summarizes where we are. And in planning to make your request for a payment plan, I just want to set expectations appropriately so you can properly prepare. I've been on the Water Commission, I think, now 5 years. Lenora Jenkins has been on a lot longer. The board during my time, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, has never granted a payment plan for a water connection fee. So it'd be quite unusual to do so. And if you do plan to make the request, it would be helpful to the commission to really understand why you're making it. Is it financial distress? Is there a reason why it can't be paid all at once? Are there extenuating circumstances? And I'm just speaking for myself, not the other commissioners, but this would be something that is not generally done by the water department.
I very much appreciate your candor, John.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if, John, if you even recall anybody even making this type of request to the commissioners previously?
I do not during the time I've been on the commission.
Okay.
And again, Lee Jenkins, the chair, has been on longer than I have. Brenda has been with the department a long time, but during my time, I do not recall anyone making a request to the commission for a payment plan.
Okay. And I understand, of course, we would have to justify, the circumstances and why we're requesting that. So we will be prepared to do that. We at the moment we're still kind of in limbo with respect to the finances on this job site, as I indicated, and that's why that's why we're not prepared to do that today. I thought though that it's probably worth noting that I know that there are other large projects, and there have been other larger size projects in the town of Cohasset, and but certainly with respect to the many business that is done before the commissioners, I would imagine that this is, in the category of a more unique type of development project. And so I just thought I'd note that. But thanks for your input, John. And we certainly, we hope to be back before the commissioners soon, because this is a matter that we are anxious to resolve and get behind us as well.
Right. And I also, Jeff, thanks very much for your coming in, your client coming in and talking to us. Since we basically have an agreement on the preliminary water connection fee that it will be paid, I think one of the main purposes today is to understand that this is not something that should be contentious on either side, that hopefully we can be working together in a way that's friendly and have open discussions.
Yeah, and that's our intention as well. I wanted to give the board a sense of a sense that it could be comfortable, as we continue. I'm not sure how much work needs to be done with respect to the water infrastructure on the site, but to the extent that there are any there's any need for any additional technical matters to be resolved, we're anxious to work with the town to get it right, and get everything in place. And we appreciate the board's understanding as we go along with the construction of the project, that we might not have everything up front to the board presently, but the goal is to get it right on the site, with the understanding that this payment issue will be resolved. Donald, do you have anything to add? Donald,
You're muted.
Excuse me, Donald, Lee Jenkins here. You are muted and we can't hear you.
Okay, how about now? Can you
Yes, thank
hear
you.
me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to know that the board understands that I've committed $75,000 to pay for the town's engineering for the grant work on 3A. And so I only have a limited amount of dollars, and I committed that I will pay 1,000. Engineering's cost is going to be from the corner of Sawyer Street and 3A all the way down to the Tupelo pump station. And it's for the engineering for the sewer line, replacing, I think there's an asbestos water line there, replacing that, engineering to put a second sewer line that will be tied into the whole infrastructure project from Situate to Hull. And that's repaving the road, you know, the whole thing. So once the major infrastructure plan is in place, from Situate to Hull, that section of 3A will not have to be torn up again. It'll have all the infrastructure in there.
Okay, I have a question here, please. You said you committed $75,000 to the town engineer. Jason, is that you? Or is that Dan Coughlin, the sewer engineer?
It's Tetra Tech.
Tetra Tech, okay. And are you also requesting from sewer relief in a payment plan?
No.
Can I ask why?
Because we have dollars in there for that. We took the dollars that we had for the septic system. Instead of putting the septic system in, we could commit that to the sewer.
So it was factored into the financing for the project with respect to septic, and that money would be diverted and supplemented to the extent that the payment to the town on sewer is higher. Am I right, Donald? Is that what you're saying?
It's much higher. You're talking, I think, $1.4 million.
What was that again? I missed that 2 seconds. I think got cut off.
We have it's in the mid between 1 and 2 million situation.
Okay.
What?
It's not yet determined.
Wait, that you're paying sewer for the hookup?
Yes. That we anticipate paying sewer for the hookup.
Plus you're paying an extra $75,000 to an engineer to get the plans made for the sewer. Correct?
Donald, is that
Well,
number correct for?
Water,
I'm
Donald,
sorry.
I don't want. Okay.
The 75,000 is paying for the town's engineering for the infrastructure on Route 3A. For the Mass Works grant doesn't pay for engineering. The town committed to the town that I would pay for the engineering.
Okay, I just want to get this clear that you just stated that the $75,000 for the engineering, you stated was basically for all sewer work.
I thought he said, Lee, that it was also for the water pipes, if I
Well,
misunderstood.
the attorney said, but Donald just said it was sewer work. So I'm a little confused. I'm not sure how much of this $75,000 is for actual water work. That's all. Because most of it is concerning
Okay.
sewer being hooked up to Situate also. Yes, go ahead.
Can I speak?
Yes, Donald, I was just asking.
So if the town needs to do street to the pump station. That engineering covers sewer, water, road network, drainage, sidewalks.
No,
He's shaking his head. You tell me then.
the cost is a lot more than $75,000 for the entire engineering project. You're paying a portion of it that's just for the sewer portion. We're paying
Okay.
for the water main and sidewalks separately. And there's a debate over whether it's going to be 75 in the NTU. It might be slightly higher.
Okay. Well, that was my understanding.
The entire
Jason,
cost all the way through is in the tune of $100,000 to $170,000 engineering
Okay.
for this
Okay.
project.
All right. This is the first that I knew about that. I was asked to commit $75,000 and I said I would.
Yeah, that hasn't been finalized because it's just, Tony sent, the engineer sent it to me the other day for what our cost would be. And we need to have a discussion about it. I didn't want to get into it here, but it's not just $75,000. There's a cost for the sidewalks that we paid for out of the sidewalk fund, as well as there's money for them to design the water main. And there's some money from the town for the signalization at the intersection that will come out of the sidewalk fund as well.
Okay.
Some of that 173 may be paid for out of the grant as well. Some of it is post design and bidding and construction administration, which can be done after the grant is awarded.
Okay.
Okay, now I just want to make sure I got this clear, that you may be asking us at some future date for a payment plan for water hookup that is approximately 10% of what sewer is charging you for sewer hookup, but you're not going to go to sewer asking for payment plan.
We haven't been before sewer yet, but your numbers are approximately correct.
Well, my question is, from what I've heard from what you said already, that you were not contemplating going to sewer for.
We still have to go before the sewer commissioners to resolve the issue of the amount that is owed to the sewer commissioners. And I suppose there is a possibility in connection with that we could ask for a similar type of situation, though I do agree with you that what Donald just indicated was that we would be paying them 100%.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions about what's going on? Is there any discussion about where we are and what we need in order to have water supplied to the location other than the payment?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
I said, are there any other discussion points or questions about what is necessary to be provided for water to be available to the site other than the payment?
Thank you. There was a discussion about a month ago that I recall concerning the water meters. I'm not certain whether that discussion was resolved. Jason, do you know whether that matter has been resolved at this point?
No, there's no, I got an email from Dawn's project manager / plumber. But generally speaking, in the past, and Brenda can correct me if I'm wrong, we're provided If you want us to say what size meter you're gonna need, you need to provide all the information on the building, every fixture count, every toilet, every urinal needs to be provided. We then give that to our meter vendor and they size the meter. As I was talking to Brenda last night, even we may look for in the future to implement a form to be filled out by the contractor in the future to be certified by either their engineer or their architect as to the actual fixture counts and calculations so that we don't end up on the hook. That meter is sized incorrectly by us, we'd be on the hook if there was a issue with pressures in the building post-construction and we said to put a 2-inch meter and it should have been a 3-inch. We could be liable for the incorrect sizing of that meter based on unknown demands inside the building. So typically speaking, we need more information. If we're going to size a meter, we need more information.
So that matter needs to be resolved. We also would like to chlorinate the lines until this is resolved and we're ready to go. My understanding is otherwise. I think that everything on the site with respect to water is resolved.
I would agree. You should chlorinate. We finished the testing out there and just open the main at this point.
Yeah.
Water can flow through there. It won't be an issue. And it will be part of the system technically, but no connection yet to the building. That way, if there is ever an issue with a fire during construction, the hydrants are available for use as well. And there's no issues with that.
How often do the commissioners meet?
Monthly. And
Okay.
sometimes necessary, we could add an additional meeting, but we have monthly meetings.
Okay, so I'm expecting that prior to Thanksgiving, we would have a determination on the grant. And, you know, within a matter of weeks from that we would be requesting to be heard before the commission again. The time that would probably be the approximate timing.
Yeah, Jeff, I think if you just coordinate with Brenda, doesn't need to be a formal letter. You can just call Brenda or send her an email and let her know you want to be on the agenda. And Brenda will place you on the agenda.
Great.
And let you know when our meeting is.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, with this situation in the world today, our meetings are not exactly set in stone.
Mhm. Yeah, understood. And we appreciate your flexibility.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Jason, are you saying that you want us to turn the loop on so there's fire protection all over the place?
Assuming all the chlorination testing passed it and the pressure tested passed it, then I have no issue with you opening the water main.
Because that'll give, right, if we ever have another incident on Sawyer Street, there'll be a second means of getting water around.
Okay. Well, other than that, I've accomplished what my objective for today's meeting, and if you know, if anybody has any additional questions, we're happy to answer.
Yeah, I just thank Jeff and Donald for coming to the meeting. I thought it was very productive to have this discussion. I think having a meeting like this where we can just openly have a conversation, even though it's by Zoom, is more productive than letter writing. And you can write letters. I mean, that's your right, but I think that tends to get people in a contentious position, and sitting down with each other may be more productive, but that's just my 2 cents.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
partially
agree.
John, but I don't think letter writing is contentious, but at least a face-to-face, you do get more questions answered. So it eliminates a great deal of correspondence going back and forth and can facilitate the project. All right. If there's nothing else, thank you very much, gentlemen. And we will be moving on to our next agenda item, which is
Thank
financials, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Donald.
Thank you, guys.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning, Don.
All right. So, based on the October financials, we're still plugging along. We're in good shape. Revenues at this point are about 28% of the budget collected, which is right in line considering that town hydrant fee and hydrant distribution charges are not yet billed.
Yep.
And then on the expense side, we're still in good shape. Operating expenses, I believe, are just around 30%, if not a little less. We're at 29.2%, so we're still below budget through 4 months. I don't really see any issues popping out at this point. And that's really the quick update for October. We are still ahead utility charges, which is great, due to some of the increased usage. And we'll just continue to monitor. I don't see why we're 4 months in. Seems like we're really having a great start to the fiscal year.
Great.
Another thing to note for last year, for fiscal 20, the year is now closed. I've submitted all the financial reports to the state for our free cash and retained earnings certifications. So I don't know their turnaround time now. I've heard from some colleagues that within a week they've gotten their responses with 0 questions. Then I've had a couple other colleagues that was same thing, pretty quick, couple questions here and there. So I don't know what the workload is. I would expect it might be a couple weeks. Preliminary estimate, just based on the actual year-to-date data and what the undesignated fund balance was, or undesignated retained earnings, I'm estimating about 1.3 million. Now, estimate, unless they find things that they want to pick on, again, they go through a whole process of looking at your undesignated. They take out receivables and deferred revenues and various other little things that they may see. So I don't foresee anything significant being reduced, but I just wanted to note that, yeah, even though everything entered is actuals and all reconciled, sometimes a DOR in their calculation and in the way they do things, it tends to be a little odd. So I expect that to be a pretty solid number, but I will confirm as soon as I find out, and then everybody will have that certification letter when I get it.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarification, Steve, this 1.3 million is just for FY20. It's not a cumulative number of previous amounts, correct?
It is a cumulative.
Okay, it is cumulative. All right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
this is
So that's a cumulative. Basically, your retained earnings is an accumulation of fund balance, essentially. So year over year, you accumulate funds from having better than expected revenues and expenditure turnbacks. We've accumulated in the undesignated, which when I say undesignated, you'd have a total fund balance, and then we reserve monies and we pull it out of your undesignated for encumbrances and any articles that you may have done, which we didn't do at last town meeting. So there were very small reserves, but they do the calculation on the undesignated part of your fund balance, so your retained earnings. So that is an accumulation year over year. It's a point in time as of June 30th of where you stand, and then they do their calculation, like I said, of pulling out receivables to basically in the event of abatements and things like that, they don't want to certify an amount as you have these outstanding receivables in case they don't come in, or that you have to pay out abatements.
understood. Thank you very much. A couple other questions now, because I know your time is very precious. What's the schedule for budgets to be submitted?
So I plan on having out my budget memo next week. Last year, I think I put it out the end of November to be due the end of December, right before the Christmas holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's all for town departments. You know, the schools end up coming in later because they take a little bit longer. Historically, we received enterprise funds a little bit later than that. It would be great if you had preliminary numbers at least at that point. But that's what we're going to be asking is by then. So I obviously still have work to do updating indirect costs and going through that whole roll forward of that schedule and taking a look at that and distributing that to you and sewer so that we can have discussions. But again, with that being said, there really haven't been any significant changes in personnel or staff or costs. So I wouldn't foresee indirect costs necessarily being a big variable in preparing your budgets. So I think the biggest question will be capital and how we want to kind of look into that. I think kind of like what we did last year, Lee, of preparing a budget without having the new proposed rate structure in there, so that at least we know where we stand as of our current rates. I know we do want to go and move forward with that rate study and presenting that to town meeting, but at least, you know, having us take a look at it in the event for some reason it doesn't go through. I think it'll be a good exercise to at least have that ready with the current rates. That's my opinion. I don't know if you folks agree, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Well, if we do too, we have quite a bit of work to do in the next several weeks before our next meeting. How are you and Jason doing on the updated rate study? Have you had a chance to work on it at all?
Jason can speak to that.
So I'm gonna share this for the heck of it. All participants. Oh, sorry. Hit the wrong thing. So I went and took a look again at the rates as he proposed them. And I looked at the expenses. He had an error in his expenses. He had only had $28,000 increase in operating costs for the GAC, where it should have been 280, and now it's $300,000 annual increase in operating cost. So there was an error there. I also updated the CIP accordingly with the new cost for the GAC and the new cost for the chlorine changeout in SCADA. And what you end up with is, and I deleted the FY21 rate increase because we didn't do it. We now have to increase rates. If we stay with the same setup, we'd have to increase rates more significantly to make this work. We'd have to go up to 4% this year, 7 the next year, 7, 7, 7, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5 to get it to work. It may end up pushing us back to looking at other alternatives, which was to relook at the fees in this tier. So basically, instead of having a 5/8 inch equal to a 1 inch meter, you start tiering out those fees and increasing them by the meter size, and not have a flat for the all the small meters. They'd be a tiered increasing of those fees. That was this concept. It gets us closer back to where we were with the original study. Or the other option was to add a third tier on the use, which then again gives you an option. So I think we are going to have to take a revisit this, either cut back on capital or change the rates based on what we proposed originally.
Jason, the ones on the bottom you just showed, is Is that for, say, higher, like that, this one right here, alternative B and C? Is that for like higher usage?
Yeah, so if you go to this is the proposed rates. So if you look at the one we have, just took the existing stuff and increased it by 2, 5, 7, whatever percent. It took everything and just increased it across the board. This one here, it went from having the first 3 be 170 to 170, 225. It basically mirrors the AWWA ratios for meter sizes. So existing, we have a ratio of 1,111 here, and we go to what the actual ratio is for those meters as far as supplying somebody water. So a 1-inch meter is 2.5 times more effective than a 5/8 inch, and so on as you go up. So everything's based on a 5/8 inch meter.
So alternative B and C really doesn't really affect most people in town then, right?
Alternative B and C would be put more of the burden on higher users.
Okay.
Can you send that to everyone, Jason, so we can look at
I
it
can. Yep.
before our next meeting?
100%. So it's a little bit confusing, and if anybody wants to sit down and have a one-on-one like this, I can go through it and explain it to each one of you. It's not a simple spreadsheet as far as how it works. So I don't have a problem with sitting down with each, but I will send it out. But it's a pretty like things are all over the place, like the ratios. So if you go to a third tier, the third tier is 50,500. I'm sorry, 50 cubic feet or higher is the third tier. And then some of these other, I would only look at, when you look at this, I'll tell you, you only look at the dashboard and the rates in the CIP. The other tabs, some of them are not, and expenses. Some of the other tabs are not applicable or not actually flushed out.
Jason, how about you just highlight those tabs that people should look at just so they know?
Agree.
But my other question, just, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, I just want to put it out there. So really the only changes are a result of moving up the GAC project and the increased cost of that. And then that error, the input error for what, once that project is completed, the ongoing operation and maintenance of this new system, right? So it's like a
big error is this
200 and something $1,000 swing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I take that out, that makes this whole thing a whole different story. That error in the expense.
Okay.
It's a big, the GAC didn't move a year. It moved a cost. It increased cost. But,
okay, so it stayed the same year that we planned on implementing this big system. It's just the cost went from, I think initially it was 2 million to up to 3.6, right?
And we moved forward the chlorine just because we're going to do something at the plant. We might as well do both at the same time.
Okay. And is there, again, I know I still have some learning to do, and I still need to do some walkthroughs with you, Jason.
Yeah.
But so is there cost? It makes sense to do both of those projects at the same time because of they're both affecting the system. And is there cost savings to do that by doing it all at once? I guess I'm just thinking partly for when we go through and do our public education, having the reason why we think it's important to do both of these things at the same time would be good to have a good understanding of that.
Yeah, we can talk about that. That would be, yes, there would be a cost savings by having the engineering be one, no multiple biddings, that type of stuff.
Okay.
And save that cost. The other piece, Don, that we need to update is the FY20 stuff when we're done, because we turned back more money, I think, than we thought we were going to. So that may make, if I fix 20 to be correct, it may make the other stuff look better moving forward too.
But FY20's budget, right?
I mean, not
FY
the
twenty
budget,
should be budget numbers.
revenue. I mean, the revenue.
Okay. I'd rather be conservative. If we're high, if we're lower, if our actuals are higher than what he has in here, I'd rather keep these conservative.
Or I should say 19, not 20. 19 was estimated in here. Because we weren't.
We'll look at it.
Yeah. So we can look at, you and I can look at that and
I'd
update.
rather be conservative.
Okay, just a stupid question. Now this rate study we're looking at, is it a 4 or 5 year rate? How many years out are you going?
It depends. I guess that, I think you want, when we do, we might as well do 5 years again, and it just,
Yes.
21 is gone. We might as well just start with 22, 23, 24.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. That's
I-
what I was thinking.
You might as well.
Yes.
Jason, what's the timing? When will this go to town meeting? And how will we present it? And should we, I guess, be thinking about making sales pitches? I guess there's probably a better word, marketing, to get this word out before town meeting.
So I talked to Chris about that, and he said the best thing to do as far as is the starting a sales pitch is to wait until January. He goes,
Okay.
nobody's going to really listen to anything between now and January. And if they do, they're going to forget it by the time we get to February.
Right.
He said if we can get our ducks in a row, which gives us time. Now looking at this, we really do need the time to January just to get to what we really want to put forward. If we may have to push GAC off a year potentially, depending upon if this is unpalatable, then we have to have that discussion as to, the other one too is I might look at with the engineer is when we would actually have that first filter media replacement cost. Would it be in 22? Would it be in 23, or would it be really in 24? Based on when it actually goes online, it may end up being that first $300,000 hit on operating might be a year further out. But like Don said, it's probably better to be conservative and assume the worst than try to push it just to make the rates work.
And Jason, would you be doing the presentation at the town meeting?
Probably.
So Jason, when you have time, I like to go one-on-one and learn more about this with you, honestly.
I think you really, I have no problem sending this out to everybody, but I think you're going to have questions once you start poking around. And if you start poking around, make sure you highlight anything you change, because getting back to where we started is we need to make sure that there's one spreadsheet that's the end all, and you can say, oh, I made this change. Does everybody agree with it? And then we incorporate it into the project and not have everybody have their own idea.
Jason, can you send that as a read only, that they could make a change, but it won't save it?
Yeah,
That might be the best, that way, if they do make a change, they can show you, but it will not save it on the master file.
I'll see what I can do. On some computers, the spreadsheet doesn't even work. Like the one I'm on right now, if I make a change to this, it'll actually blow the spreadsheet up. On my other computer, it works. So like if I change this to 3 million, the whole thing blows up over here for some reason. I have some kind of security settings on my computer here, this one, that's not on the other one, that's making this not work.
Oh, okay.
So there's some weird, it's a very finicky spreadsheet, but I'm more than happy to send it out to you. This is not I'm not going to send this. I'm just 100% saying you're probably going to need a half hour with me to really understand it in the end.
Jason, to the other thing, just make sure that you have a copy that is current.
Yes.
And then, if anybody does change or they have points, then, you have a solid copy of where we are right this second.
Yeah.
As you've updated the GAC already, you've already increased that operating cost for the error. So like, you should have the master file at this point.
Yeah.
And anybody that wants to propose adjustments as they talk with you or bring it back to a group meeting, then they can be discussed. Then you can implement them into your master spreadsheet.
Good point.
Okay, I have an idea here, listening to what everyone is saying, that it appears it would be more beneficial if after you send this out, we look it over and gather our questions, that we can somehow have an in-face group meeting, maybe at the Wilcott Center, so that instead of you spending a half hour with me and Steve and John, we can all get our questions together and get things worked out in our minds so that we know what everyone is talking about.
And just for note on that, I did reach out to the town hall. Am I sharing this slide?
See this?
So this is the current state guidelines on if we wanted to meet in person. It's still not recommended, but if we desire to do so, this would be the requirements of meeting in person at Wilcott.
I should know this, but so if the group meets together, even in that point, wouldn't that still need to be a public meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
So double back with town hall, Jason, whether it's Pam or even Chief Sylvia, because that was actually discussed on the call this morning about trying to do some in-person. There's, another group or two that wanted to do in-person meetings. Same thing. It's easier if we have everything together in person, right? Instead of through Zoom. They had some opinions on that with some of this new guidance. So I think it's a good idea, but double back with them if you could, Jason, just to make sure that we're all kind of doing the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That was a question about how we do the public portion of it. But I would say that if people do have questions, I don't mind answering them ahead of time, because like I said, it could bog down the whole meeting getting into the minutia of how the spreadsheet works. If people have a feel for it before, I think all the better.
no, but I'm just saying, maybe a question that Steve would have would stimulate something in my mind, but I wouldn't hear his question because I wouldn't be there. That's all I'm saying. That
No, I'm saying I agree with we need to talk about it all when we're done. But I think if you want to poke around on it, you can poke. If you have questions when you're poking around on it, feel free to give me a call, is all I'm saying.
I'm just saying, I still think that if we have just a working meeting where we can seriously look at this, look at the budget face to face, so that we're not in this situation and have numbers in front of us, it would be beneficial and we could get it done expediently.
Jason, I mean, can we, just say we decided, us four and whoever else decides if we can meet, can we just say we a posted meeting, but executive,
Session.
executive session only?
I can ask.
Because, yeah, ask about that question.
Okay.
I think it's got to be a legal matter where you're meeting with, maybe I'm
Right,
wrong.
John.
I think you're right too. I don't think you can just, it'd have to be like contract negotiations or something that's
That's right. So it'd have to be a public. It had to be, yeah, you're right. It would have to be a public meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, if we posted it as a public meeting, could we set up a camera in the room, have it a Zoom meeting
I don't know.
where all of us can be on view? Because as we know, our meetings are not exactly the people breaking down the doors to get in. I've very rarely seen an audience.
I mean, technically, you probably could. If we just, Brenda could do her thing from remote. One of us have a laptop, right? And it'd be a view of us.
Yeah.
Again,
So,
I think logistically it would work. I think you just really have to check in with town,
Correct.
to be consistent with all the other boards, because that does, if public health and public safety are trying to avoid this, it would not be a good message of us going and doing this when there's other boards and committees in town that would like to do it as well.
Yeah, and I personally don't think I would want to be at Wilcott, not that I wouldn't like to see all you guys. But honestly, I prefer to keep my distance from everybody at this point in time,
Yep.
especially with the numbers.
Yeah,
going
no,
up.
I just add, I was on the call with Dawn this morning that it was kind of a collective decision that there'll be no public meetings because of, you you could potentially be in violation of open meeting law. You can't restrict the number to 25, and so that it was across the board that there'd be no in face-to-face meetings as of right now.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to just try and muddle through. So we'll
Yeah, we
just,
can either individually meet with Jason, or we can, in person, we can individually meet with Jason, or by Zoom, I would think.
yeah. And then maybe, I hate to put this on you, Jason, compile the questions everybody's asking so that everybody knows.
I was gonna say the same thing, Lee.
That's fine.
Compile all the questions.
Steve and I and John won't be asking you the same question and saving your time that way.
That's fine. I don't mind. I think, like I said, I think the biggest part of the questions to start is just gonna be how the spreadsheet works, not even the rates. I think it's gonna be more like, what do these tabs mean and which ones are the ones that matter? And I may try and do my best in an email to explain the spreadsheet. So it'll probably be later today that you'll actually get it, because I'm gonna try and write something up before I send it, and not just send you something and send you a loaded gun.
Okay.
without getting a class in how to shoot it.
But I have one question, Brenda. The
Yeah.
5-inch meters, how many of those do we have, and are we supposedly phasing those out?
Say that again?
The 5/8-inch meters, how many do we have, and are we phasing those out?
The majority of our people have 5/8 meters. I have the breakdown somewhere here, but the majority is 5/8. All new construction is 1 inch. If somebody upgrades their service, it's usually a 1 inch, so they'll upgrade their meter, but the majority, everybody has 5/8 meters.
Because I remember back
That,
in the dark ages, when I was getting a new meter in the pit there, it was, no, you can't get a 5/8, you had to get a 1 inch.
because of the length of the service line,
Okay,
that's why. So, but the normal, regular homes that, original homes, if they, didn't have a long run and whatnot, they're all 5/8 meters.
okay.
I'm looking at it right now based on the spreadsheet, whether it's right or wrong. We have about 1,900 5/8 inch, 738 1 inch, 16 inch and a half, 54 2 inch, 3 inch. So yeah, still the majority of the users are 5/8 inch.
Okay. Well, looking forward to seeing the spreadsheet because the numbers speak, so.
And then I think at the same time, if we get the information to start on the budget, to make sure, because Steve, I know you don't have any historical data, to send out information on the last 4 budgets so that you can see how we've been going.
Yep.
If Brenda can do that, that'd be great. And then we can start preliminary discussion on budget.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. So, John, is there anything else you want to tell us?
That's it for my update.
Any other questions about where we're going, what we're doing? This
Nope.
looking good. Thank you so much for all your time, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon, and have a very happy first Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
day,
you, Don.
everybody.
Yeah,
See you,
Don.
Don.
Okay, next is water restrictions.
Good morning, this is Carl.
Yes, Carl.
Permit requires that we remain in restrictions. We're still deficient in rainfall and reservoir and pond level. Erin Reservoir and the pond here are at 55%. And
Carl, what did you just say at the reservoir on what?
Reservoir and Lily Pond, they're both at 55% full.
Okay,
So we're gaining, maybe by the
lost you, Carl.
Yeah, Carl, what do we have to be at pond level to be out of restriction?
We lost Carl.
Carl's gone. Okay.
All right, let's go to the next one, or?
Now, does anybody know the answer to the question? No? It seems like,
think
something
people-
wrong with the plant.
Yeah, but looks like we lost,
Everybody.
looks like we lost connection at the plant.
Yes,
There's a bunch of-
okay.
There's stuff going on at the plant today, so there's a bunch of people there. We're replacing that main pipe that goes from in the pump room out. What is that, 14-inch or something, Jason?
Jason's frozen.
Nah, he's gone. So they're replacing that. So the plant shut down. We came in early to start it up, to fill up the tanks, and they're back now. There's
Okay,
a lot of stuff going on at the plant.
okay, my question was, what do we have to be at levels of the pond and reservoir to be out of restriction?
Another 6 inches of elevation at the reservoir to, as far as that parameter. Rainfall, we probably need another 2 or 3 inches of rain.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next, plant automation, before you guys disappear again.
Yes,
Have you just, how we doing with plant automation?
this is Carl again. We've completed our testing, have everything set to go. I have a letter that will be going in the mail today to DEP requesting unmanned operations.
Nice.
Okay, so we'll hopefully hear at the next meeting. What's happening with that?
I did talk with DEP. They did tell me not to expect a rapid response. I pushed the issue a little bit, and it'll probably be several months before we get an answer.
Nice. Okay, GAC,
GAC, we have an updated meeting, update meeting on Friday. It has been operating very well. They actually had a backwash this week, one of the trains, but you're getting very good removal rates. As well as the facility study. We actually have a meeting this afternoon on prioritization of infrastructure with them coming out to do on-site inspections before Christmas.
okay, now, the one thing you were saying, on the rate study, if we possibly put off the GAC for a year implementing it, how would that affect us?
I can run it. Hold on a second. I have to go to my computer that I can make changes to it.
No, I mean, how would that affect us in relationship to any state?
That's my point. I can't change it over here. I have to go
Okay.
over my other computer to change the year we're gonna do it in.
Okay, well, let's move along to the next one.
No,
while you're doing-
you still have to increase the rates significantly. You don't have to go up to 7 the first year. You can probably
Oh,
go to
I'm
5.
I'm sorry. That's not the question.
What was the question?
The question is, if we didn't implement the GAC program
At all?
for another year,
Yeah,
how would that affect us with the TTHMs and the state
Oh.
regulations?
sorry. I thought you
Yes.
said the rate study.
No.
I'll leave that to Fred and Carl.
This is Carl. We're squeaking by on the THM, so, we do our best to manage it.
Mhm.
It was pretty close last year when the organics went so high at the pond. And we do our best, to watch the process very closely and manage THM levels.
But
So it
I
kind of
know we're
looks like the same
doing as much as we can, but if we did put off this implementation for another year, as we were discussing with the rate study, is that going to just blow up a lot of whistles and bells to the state and cause us a problem? Or could we be comfortable talking about possibly putting it off for a year in the rate study?
If I'm correct on this, I think the THM levels, while everyone tries to manage them very carefully, are somewhat unpredictable in that this year we had a good year, but prior years we were very close to exceeding the limit.
Well, I mean, this is just it. We have been. And so the question is, do we want to take a chance on putting it off a year? Or, you know, I was looking for the experts to sort of give us more of their idea, how they felt if we could possibly do it and feel comfortable doing it in the rate study, as Jason suggested. Because I know it is a fluctuating number, but let's get back to that. Now we seem to have a problem here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're
Yes.
back.
I went to the, hold on.
Boy, we got an echo.
Yeah, because I'm
You're
on
on-
two computers. I went to the town network now.
Okay.
So I don't have a camera on this one though, but so as far as the rates, you're not gonna have a major effect on the rates just delaying it a year, Lee. You know, you may decrease the first year of the rate study, but it's not gonna be like oh, now we don't have to go by we still have to go up by 5 next year, 7,777. It's not
Okay,
like
no,
it.
wait a second. I'm not concerned about the rates. I'm concerned if we do decide to hold off for a year, how would that impact us with our liability with the state and the levels? Is it worth it to put it off, or should we just say, okay, this is it, we're going?
That's what I'm saying as far as putting it off versus going. I think you go just because it's going to become an issue, and to delay it a year.
Would
It's
rather
not-
be conservative and continue with it. Okay, problem.
That's just my opinion.
All right, next is asset management.
So Steve had me put me in contact with his asset management person that he uses in Hingham. And I met with him and I looked at his product, and he gave me a quote for implementation. In the meantime, I had reached out to Fred to discuss what Woodard was currently planning on doing as it's part of their contract to implement something they have implemented currently, a system for work orders that's somewhat less robust than what we'd like to see. And they're in the process of implementing another system. So currently we have, for asset management, we have facility stuff came in, and we did it as part of the town. All the building infrastructure stuff was done, and that's in one system. We have the online mapping stuff from the town in one system, and Fred and Woodard has another system. So in the end, in Woodard, at no additional cost to the town at this point, is going to implement a solution that could bring all of these together into one platform. If Woodard were to ever leave, that platform could be turned over to the town, and we would just have to inherit the annual maintenance cost for the licensing, which is the per user license, to the tune of about $5,000 a year. So realistically, Steve, just so you know, the quote that I got from your guys is year one cost was like $30,000. And then the annual maintenance fee on top of that was about equal to the system that Woodard has proposed. So it financially would make more sense to go with the road that Woodard is already starting down. Sewer is already on that same system.
Yep,
On
makes it easier.
and that way, hopefully, we're actually going to reach out, Brian, Joyce, and I, and talk about the stormwater and putting it all in the same system. It's like a $2,000 license for the town to then have access to layer. So water would have their system, but they could see stormwater and sewer. Sewer would have their system. They can see water and stormwater, and we can see all of them. So I don't want to speak for Fred, but I think they have a timeline of when they want to get this implemented. There's a little bit of a backlog on their end. But I'll let Fred speak to that. If he's not frozen, which I think he is.
He looks like he just got frozen.
I mean, if you get an all-in-one system, Jason, that's even better, especially if you get to retain it and maintain it throughout the years.
And the nice part is too, is if it ever becomes an issue, it's a web-based system, so we can take it over. We just have to get the licenses. It's basically you have a username and password. So if Brendan is bstone@woodardandcurran.com, if we took over and they changed to Suez, it would be just change his login from bstone@woodardandcurran to bstone@Suez, and you don't lose anything.
Gotcha.
So
That makes-
I believe they said that it should be by spring that it should be up and running. I don't want to quote him on that, but since he got knocked off, I'm going to quote him on that. What's your timeline for implementation? Watch out for the keys. When do you think you'd be able to get it up and running? Yeah.
You're talking first part of next year.
So yeah, so springtime next year.
Yep.
So that's that one. Tree removal. Do you want to go the ones that Fred and Carl needs to talk to because he's in my office now. So
Absolutely.
ransom cyberware attack readiness. So ransomware attacks are generally speaking come through email. The town currently has a training policy and scanning for making sure that employees don't fall susceptible to ransomware. In talking to Fred, they have a similar system on their end where it's a 2 strikes and you have to go back to training. So if you click on a fake link sent by IT, you have to go back to training once you violate the rules more than twice.
Woodard and Curran has the same thing, but you got a 1 shot. You do it once, you take the training all over.
Fred said you do it twice. Maybe he has a different policy than you.
No, I think it's once.
He said once. She said once. Whatever. They have a policy. And we also, as far as cyber attack readiness, we're looking as part of one of the capital projects is to increase the level of security from hackers, remote access, and that's one of the articles at town meeting for this year. So basically, and the SCADA computer also doesn't have access to email. So
I was just going to ask that question.
So it can't, no one can open it. And if it ever needs to be fully just restored and backed up, it could be. They do regular backups, so they could back up the entire system and just delete everything and replace it if they needed to.
Now, Jason, was there a hack attack on towns in the South Shore in relation to unemployment?
Yes, not towns. According to the town, because I got a fake employment claim on me.
Me too.
It wasn't the town. It was just, I don't know how they did it, but according to the town, they didn't give the data up. But a lot of people got hit with fake requests.
Yeah, I heard there were about 300.
Yeah.
Yep. I was like one of the first ones to hang him in early May.
I was early too.
And Brendan also got hit up too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let me go back, if I can ask a question on ransomware. If somebody did click on a link by mistake that was ransomware, could someone who's sending the ransomware take over our plant or shut us down? What would be the implications?
Ransomwares are generally speaking, they lock down your information. They don't actually take control. So what would happen is they would just, if it ever did affect the SCADA computer, which is highly unlikely, they would just restore from backup the computer, and it would eliminate any lockdown of the data on the computer. So ransomwares are not generally a pipeline in to the computer, as well as the pipeline in way to the SCADA computers is there is already a level of protection in there currently in the system. There's just an additional, basically every so many years, they update the requirements on cybersecurity for hacking purposes. So there was a recent upgrade this year, and we are working to implement additional firewalls. Basically, there is an existing firewall, but they want another whole setup of protection, and that's in that article for town meeting. So we're basically we're as prepared as we can be for ransomware.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I guess Fred's back, so we can go back to tree removal at Erin River Road. So there was this woman reached out to the town hall, and it ended up in my lap. On her tree is dying out in front of her neighbor's house, and she's afraid that if the tree falls, it will limit access to her house because it'll fall across the street. I had the tree warden go up and take a look at it, and he said it is declining, but he would look at it in the spring to determine how it leafed out to see if it should be taken down or not. She didn't like that answer. So I said the only option she would have at that point is to reach out to you guys and request that it be removed. I'm still waiting on a quote for that from the tree person for the town.
Is it a private property tree or is it a?
It's a street tree, but it's a private road.
So would that consider be a private tree?
It's a private tree that Carl Sestito wouldn't touch it. It's not a town tree. She's claiming we damaged it when we did a repair of a service.
My thought is I didn't know we had a tree warden. I think it's pretty cool that we do. But, if the tree warden's telling us to see if it's going to bloom in the spring, I would defer to the tree warden.
That does sound reasonable, and I don't know how she can prove that we damaged the tree when we were doing any service repair.
I would say one thing, and I will bring it back to you when we do get the quote. There's some dead trees at Elms Meadow that need to be taken down before the winter storms start. And my thought was, if they're going to be here for the day, or if it's most of the day to clean up Elms Meadow and there's a little bit of time left and they could take that tree down, then I would. But I'm waiting to talk to the guy in person to see what he can actually accomplish in a day. But if that is the option, then I might say to take it down at that point, just because it might be a lot lower cost than next year if we have to.
Okay. That's reasonable.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, we discussed the preliminary budget and rate study already. Peppermint Brook, are we flowing at all there?
There is flow, and we're targeting, hopefully in the next month, for Brendan and I to go out and try and help recover those sampling sites, Lee. So there has not yet been a slow day here, and we're hoping that soon we will get a slow day that we can go out there and clear out those sites to make them accessible and start taking the samples on a regular basis.
Okay, and also that property on Chief Justice Cushing Highway, what is happening with that? Should we be pursuing this? Because supposedly they took some cars off, but I noticed the cars are still parked on 3A every now and again, and they still have all of the trailers and construction equipment on it, and the service bays that are.
I know that they're going to be, Jen was going to be having them do a request for modification to the zoning board. I will re-follow up with her and find out what the status of that was. But at that point, we would be able to comment on that situation.
So, Jason, I guess the zoning board then is saying they're not in compliance with their current use permit. And maybe Jen or someone could send them a letter on behalf of the zoning board to say, we're requesting, if you want to continue this use, that you apply for change of use, but basically under the use that you've been approved for, you're not allowed to park cars where you're parking them.
Yeah, I think that was the last they were going to do. I'm not sure what happened on that. I will follow back up with Jen.
Okay, thank you.
On that,
John,
and I'll let
it's
you guys know this week.
Cars, though. It's the fact that the building that is right there on the embankment of Peppermint Brook was supposed to be a storage building only for 12 cars. Instead, they turned it into a building that is a 3-bay service building that they are servicing cars. And what happened to anything from that when they're changing oil, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I think it'd be good too to delete it, have that in the letter too. Maybe Jason, you could follow up with that and say that should not be used other than for storage.
Yeah. I'll ask her if I can take a look at the letter before they send it out.
Okay.
Okay, now the last thing is I talked to Jason because I was driving down Jerusalem past Forest and I saw some area where there were several goats enclosed in some, looked like a chicken wire. And wondering whether or not when those goats were finished there, they could move over to some, let's say, more fruitful eating over on Cushing Road.
Whose goats are those? I know exactly what you're talking about. It's right when you pass Forest going towards Hull.
They haven't been long.
If you
Yeah, they haven't been there long, but I don't know. I know you can rent goats if you want them to, eat vegetation. I don't know if those are rented goats or if they're owned by somebody. Do you know?
If you want to see my large smirk on my face, you would laugh. Those people have been told to stop that.
Okay.
They are on town property with those goats. And it's been a long-standing issue with that homeowner as far as whatnot. So Jeff Summers and Pam were on their way over there last week to deal with that. Yes, we could rent goats, but it gets back to that question about have to file an NOI if you want to do anything within 50 feet of a wetland. So if we want to do that, I can move forward with submitting an NOI, getting wetland flagging done out there. But we'd have to apply to conservation and get approved prior to having the goats go in.
Yeah, I doubt if the chairman of Concom will allow us to do it without charging us $25,000 for a whole GIS study, because he did mention that prior.
Yeah, so that other than that, I like being able to pay for my kids to have food. So if somebody's going to get fired over goats illegally eating in the wetlands, it's not going to be you guys, it'll be me. So
Well,
I want to go through it the legal way, which is we'd have to file an NOI if we want the goats to eat in the wetlands. So I don't mind doing it if we want to, but that's what we have to do if we want to have the goats go out there.
Because it is very confusing. Concom lets the people dump there without filing an NOI, but for us to want to clean up, it's going to cost us 2 arms and a leg.
Because we're a town and we're not people.
Yeah, we're down. We're not. That's right. Eva, I don't know. It is frustrating. Well,
I agree.
Question that we didn't bring up though is the well field. That in the event that the PFAS does continue to increase, have we gotten any indication of what mitigation cost is?
Hold on, I have a cost here. So the cost to just, am I muted or am I on? The cost for a pilot out at Elms Meadow, hold on, I got a quote for that. It was in the tune of like $60,000 to $90,000 to go and move the pilot down to Elms Meadow.
But that's the pilot, and we don't know how much, if they could do something, what it would cost. Would it be really cost effective we have to have some numbers as to how much we're saving with Elms Meadow being open, how much the mitigation would cost, and if it would be worthwhile to keep it open. Because that is something else that has to go into the rate study in the event we have to close it. So this is some numbers we have to seriously think about rather quickly.
Yeah, so in the end, the cost to pilot down there, if we were to move the pilot, would be about $90,000 to pilot Elms Meadow. And the majority of that is $65,000 of lab costs for sampling. So that's where we're at if we want to move forward with that. I asked if we could do a bench scale down there, but the issue is water quality variations throughout the year and changing levels of organics throughout the year and its effect on the GAC. So it would have to be an extended pilot out of that site.
And when are we up for our next PFAS test there?
Oh, this is Carl. I'm expecting to do the sampling the end of this month.
Okay. Well, I don't know. How do you guys feel if it shows an increase?
I'd have to see what the increase is and really give it some more thought.
But we're going to have to work some of these numbers into, I'm hoping that we wouldn't have to close it in the next year, but if we do have to close it, that has to be a consideration in the rate study.
I agree.
Yeah, so we're kind of pushing things here at the end of this month so that it looks like we really won't be able to get any, let's say, semi-solid numbers to the town about budget and rate study until our January meeting.
Yeah, we can also, I'll work with Fred and Carl and Brendan in the short term. I know that when I brought that up, they said that it had been analyzed at one point in the past, the differentiation in cost per gallon here versus Elms Meadow. So we can look at that as far as what that cost might be both now and in the future.
Yeah, no, because I remember when I first came on the board in the first couple of years, Peter DiCaprio had that done. Remember that, Brenda?
Yes, yep.
Yeah. Was the information that I had been using. Okay, is there anything else in the agenda?
Abatements.
Yeah, talk about besides, we have our abatement.
Yeah.
Can I do the meeting minutes?
Yeah.
I'll do them really quick. I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes for September 21, 2020, the meeting minutes for September 29, 2020, the meeting minutes for October 13th, 2020, and finally the meeting minutes for October 20, 2020.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Brenda, I'll sign these and I'll get them to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Don.
Yeah.
Okay, now your abatement, Brenda.
Yeah, Donna Hayden of 9 Little Harbor Road. So I'm chalking it up to COVID. What happened was in June, she had an irrigation system put in at the beginning of the season. She got her before she got her first bill, she reached out. I told her to get a second meter put in so she wasn't charged for sewer. So she finally got a plumber in. The meter got installed on June 15th. The problem is we physically handed the meter to the plumber because we weren't allowed to go in people's homes. And there was no way to access it from the outside. You physically had to go through the home to get to the meter. So Brendan had talked to the plumber's assistant who said, oh, no problem. We'll put it prior to the master meter, meaning it's an irrigation meter. the water would be added to the water bill, but not to the sewer. So the bill went out. She knew it was going to be high because it was, this was last quarterly bill. It was going to be high because she didn't get the meter in place right away. So she paid it. Now this quarter just went out, which was for a full quarter. And she called and she said, Brenda, something's wrong. There's no way I could have possibly used this much water. So sent Connor out. He got all PPD'd up and went inside the house, went and looked at the meters. And I don't know if you're familiar with this house. It's Nathaniel Palmer's old house. It's literally sitting on a rock. So to get into the basement area, there were just pipes running everywhere. When Connor looked at it, he says, yeah, it looks like it's before the master meter. Well, it isn't. Come to find out, Brendan finally talked to the plumber itself, and he said, no, there was no way we could do it before. It's after, meaning it's a deductible meter. So what happened these last 2 quarters, Mrs. Hayden was charged double for water, and she never got the credit for sewer. So she got double whammied on both sides. Since this has been done, I've fixed the programming. It's all fixed now, but she is definitely due the credits for these 2 abatements. And it should not be held against her going forward in the future because it was a billing error. It was my error.
I make a motion that we approve the abatement.
I
Second.
second. Yep.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now
Okay.
someone's got to sign that.
Yeah, so, seconded by, yeah, I will be in the office tomorrow. I'm hoping I'll have this available, and I'm gonna try to get another set of warrants done today. I'm just waiting on a few approvals from Dawn for the POs, but I will be in the office. So whomever, John, if you're gonna swing in and drop those off tomorrow, I can just have you sign it.
Sure.
We'll play it by ear.
Okay, I won't be around tomorrow.
I'm around.
Okay.
Brenda, I'm around too, so.
Okay, all right, cool. All right,
Okay, so do we have any other items that we want to discuss? Any
Just-
commission comments?
Just one non-water thing. So I'm part of the subcommittee for the alternate energy committee for microgrids and all the good stuff. So last year, the town authorized them to explore solar for all the various town buildings. And so, you know, the water department building, because the usage is high, was being looked at. So the RFPs went out, we're interviewing, and somebody from them is gonna come to one of the meetings that we're gonna have, which I'll step away from, but you know, the goal is to reduce the energy in the building by 20%, and it's no cost to us. Just gonna put that out there, just let you folks know that might be coming down the pipeline.
and this,
So-
is this to put solar panels at the plant?
Correct.
Okay, when they tried to do, just to give you a heads up, Steve, so that you know, this was proposed years ago.
Yep,
When word got out to the residents around us,
yep.
it didn't go any farther. They thought it wouldn't be aesthetically pleasing to the eye if it was here, there, or everywhere. And they even proposed putting them out back to where they wouldn't physically be on the building.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so I just want you to be aware of that, yeah.
I've seen some crazy proposals right now that I would say no go for like around town, but I stepped away from that one.
Okay,
That has to be a group decision, not a Steve decision.
okay.
Yeah, no, well, I would say the town has changed quite a bit, shall we say, since that proposal came up. And I think we have what we'll call more green people in town now.
Correct. I mean, the goal is to knock each month bill off by 20 to 30%.
And didn't we get some energy efficiency done in the building recently that was supposed to be saving us?
All the lighting was redone in the building.
Yep.
Yep.
And,
So,
and I also have them coming in, they're gonna look at our HVAC system
Mhm.
to determine if there's a option for replacing these wall hung units with something more efficient.
Perfect.
So,
Okay,
that's all
so
I got.
we will have our next meeting to be determined whenever, depending on Steve and John and your schedules.
Thank you.
I know they change dramatically with kids. You never know what's going to be next week.
Well, I'll let you folks know, and I can do this again this time. I get 10 vacation days I need to burn pretty quickly, so.
I will tell you this, Dawn requested the next meeting to be later in the month so he can have better numbers for you. And I know with the holiday and whatnot, so he said the later the better for him.
Yeah,
Okay. So
Well, I mean-
with,
we did them after the 15th because of the financial department. Yes, John, I'm sorry to interrupt.
no problem at all. If Steve, if that works for you to do a morning meeting, that would be great for me. And Thursdays and Fridays are the best days for me because my kids are actually physically at school those days.
Yeah,
So I have less distractions. So any Thursday or Friday when there's not a school holiday, if Steve, that's okay for you, we can do a 9 o'clock.
yeah,
meeting.
I have to block up my calendar because I gotta use this time. If not, I'll lose it, so.
Okay.
I would also say too, I know Don wants the finances done, but maybe we have a meeting that doesn't have the finances just to talk about the rate stuff. Because if we wait till end of the month in December to look at the rates again at the whole meeting, I think then we're going to be rushing to get it done by January versus doing something early in December that Don won't have final numbers or anything, but at least we can talk rates and just have it be looking at the rates and that's it, nothing else on the agenda.
I think that's a good idea. And if we want to, we can later have a very brief meeting with Don on finances.
Or we can have a follow-up on the rates, you know what I mean? Then we
Yeah.
can, maybe the next meeting after that, we finalize the rates that we are going forward with for January time. You know what I mean? Like we meet early in December, we all hash everything out and then come back and end of the month and say, okay, this is what we all think should be the case and have an official vote on whatever it is.
Okay, why don't we just plan early in December? Let's come back, see how things are after Thanksgiving, if anything's changing with the schools. And just plan to have, let's call it a finance meeting, rates and budget. And then have our regular meeting later on in the month, because goodness knows what else will be coming up.
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Happy
Okay.
Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you.
Gentlemen, to see what's available the beginning of December with schools in case something changes.
Okay.
All right.
Happy
Okay.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy
Same to you. Thank
Thanksgiving.
you, everyone.
We're gonna make a
Yeah.
motion to close out the meeting, right?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn. Yeah.
I second.
Awesome. All in
Favor.
favor?
Aye.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
See ya.
Steve, you have plenty of time to get to work.
Yes, I know, half hour, sweet. I'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye.